welcome, everybody. This is a very exciting webinar for me. Some of you know that I am from a rural state, Mississippi. I've lived in Virginia for almost 30 years, but this area remains a source of passion for me. Today I have with us 3 teachers, and a lot of people don't know that you are a teacher and a principal before you came to Idaho National Lab, so you have a very unique perspective on the work that you did with I7 Idaho, but also the collective that you've built in Southeast Idaho. So I hope that folks on the webinar today are as excited about hearing as I am. Even though I've heard it a number of times, I really like to hear how you keep fleshing out and engaging with teachers and parents. And then we also have with us 2 of our newer team members from Tennessee. Both of them also teachers, worked in some pretty tough environments. Curran leads our Maker-Minded initiative, which is really trying to tie quality out-of-school programming with what happens in the classroom. Brandi works on that, as well as kicked off this new rural initiative a couple of weeks ago. I think it was a couple of weeks ago, maybe as long as a month ago. In addition to that, she runs our institute for Leaders Institute in Tennessee, so working with teachers and also principals and superintendents to make sure that they're doing the right things within their environment to cultivate a robust STEM environment. With that, I will throw the system back to them. And Rob, I didn't look to see who goes first, but take it away.
I believe. So, Anne, the stage is yours.
Hear me?
I can.
Okay. Well, thanks for the opportunity to be here today to talk about the great work we're doing at Idaho National Lab, reaching into our rural communities. So for those on the phone, Idaho National Lab is one of the 10 multi-purpose laboratories here in the United States. We're doing high-level research in the areas of nuclear energy, national homeland and security, renewable energy, and the environment. And more about that as we go on. So do I click or do you click? That's our vision and mission, so go ahead. So one of the reasons why we were propelled to work within our rural communities, because if you have been to Idaho, you know that we're a large state with a small populace, and we have a wilderness area in between. And very much of our state is rural. So I think I live in the 3rd or 4th largest city. It's about 60,000 people. So we have an employment problem here at Idaho National Laboratory, like many other places across this nation. And our people are retiring. 30% of the INL employees will retire within the next 3 to 5 years, and our programs are growing. We only have people have to love to come to Idaho. You have to like the outdoors. You have to like to fly, fish, and ski, and deal with cold weather and warm weather. So it's a unique, and then we have a unique culture environment within our community, just with the makeup of the community and the various aspects of that. So what we see is we recruit from around the world, across the nation, but we can't keep people here. So we're working now in our own backyards and starting to recruit talent from there. So that's our main goal in reaching out to the rural communities. Next. We hire about 500 people a year. These are our top jobs. They're STEM jobs, as you can see, clear from a PhD down to an associate or a technical position. We also hire non-STEM positions. So those are the careers we're touting as we go out and work in our rural communities, trying to convince our students or those students and their families especially that STEM is a great job. It has a high wage, and sometimes be done from their local community to bring a vibrant economy back to their community. So you can see who's able to retire. You can see the greatest needs. Fire protection was one of the hardest things to fill. I think we still have positions open. There's only 3 universities in the world that have fire protection engineers. So we're really trying to recruit some of rural students into going into fire protection engineer. Next.
Yeah, can I just ask, like, what is an area where you might think that there is an issue, but you haven't had nearly as big of a problem as you might have thought? Are there any places where, oh, well, okay, that we've got?
No, we're hiring pretty much everything. We don't have, what you see between those two lists is what we need. Probably our least in environmental science, it usually takes some specialty in that, but you know, all those fields, especially computer, I'm going to say the computer industry is growing like crazy. Cyber especially, so any technical degree in that area, and our nuclear engineer area is growing. So those are our needs. Or technician.
You mentioned cyber, and for a moment there I thought, well, you know, with cyber, so much of that, but other companies is done remotely, but at a national lab, that's probably not as much of an option. Do I have that about right?
There's some work that can be done from home. That's why working in a rural community might be helpful because students can't, as long as there's connectivity in those rural communities, it's possible to do some of that work from home.
Okay. Interrupted your flow, but I wanted to get a little bit in there. Okay.
Go to the next slide. So here's some of the solutions we came up with as we do and how we recruit. So next slide. 8 years ago, as Regina mentioned, I was hired by the National Lab to lead a teacher professional development program across the state called I7, and it was very successful. We took that program not only into Idaho, but Wyoming, Utah, and Alaska. And as you can see, we had a large reach over those years, over 8,000 educators, and those educators impact nearly 3,000 students. Cool thing about this initiative is all rural teachers were able to get it to have this PD. It was a week-long summer institute. We prefer teachers to come into a larger area in the region. There's 6 educational regions in Idaho, and so they were paid, they had a hotel, and they could come in and participate and learn about STEM. This was a very popular workshop, institute, or PD. Teachers said that was like waiting for a rock concert to get in. So today, March 1st, when sign-up was, it was full by the end of the day. And so we took 700 teachers a year, working with each of our 6 regions and running these through the community colleges and then working with our universities as well. So with that being said, we knew we couldn't keep this going forever as the Idaho National Lab. So I was very instrumental, as well as some of the other industry partners that helped put this on, in forming the governor's Idaho STEM Action Center. And so with that, the Idaho STEM Action Center will be taking over iSTEM and continuing PD across the state for all those rural teachers and our urban and suburban teachers as well. Right? You know, that gave us an advantage to think about what we need. And we know that students start finding passions in STEM or dislikes in STEM early. As early as 3rd grade, students have some kind of attitude about math. And so we decided we really needed to start younger and work with our rural communities and our local communities to do that. We believe that the family is as important as the school, because in those rural communities, everything centers around the school and the family comes out. We have a grant program where we give grants out to the rural schools, thanks to the Battelle. And what we noticed is that when we give away a grant, the whole community comes out and participates in the event. And so that led us to think, oh, we need to really get involved because people are listening, they're interested, and they're excited about the opportunities. Next slide. So first things we did was we developed this toolkit called STEM Help Wanted, and we have this can be found on our webpage at Idaho National Labs. This is a book that's written by scientists, engineers, and technicians about the kind of work we do at the National Lab. And it gives students advice on career pathways, how they can make a difference in the world, what hobbies and interests might lead them to a career. and we created a video about this as well. So I'd like to show the video, and this is widely used in all of our rural communities. So
to play it, that means I'm going to mute everybody. So let me stop sharing here, but I have learned the hard way. Turn off sound for all. Let me do that up. You first published this video.
So the video was published last fall, and it just is used everywhere, and people provide books out to the classrooms. I can't tell you how many hundreds of thousands of books we provided. We have some little games that go with it, and this is available in English and Spanish. We have a lot of Spanish-speaking students and families in our rural communities, so we felt it was important to put this in a language that they understood.
All right, unmute everybody's audio. Here we go.
Do you dream of a future where you lead your world? A creative career through science, technology, engineering, and math as the foundation to exciting profession at places like Idaho National Laboratory. Through your education, INL is reaching out with scientists, engineers, and technicians to give you a vision of how your education today plays into your future. Our student outreach primes the pump for the future STEM workforce. Students make career choices early in life based on awareness and other external factors, which we have worked diligently to impact positively.
I always loved science and engineering. My father is an engineer. I always loved rocks, right? I would always pick them up and look at them when I was a young child. And then when I was in high school, a volcano called Mount St. Helens, just a little west of here, erupted. And I said, oh, I've got to be a geologist. I cleared that major in college, had a great professor, just absolutely just excited me, lit me up, right? And then I just stayed with it. And, you know, geology takes you different directions, and it took me to Idaho National Laboratory. The laboratory is a research and development organization, right? We do research. We solve big problems. We're saving the world. And we need strong scientists and engineers to do that research. But that has to start even before kindergarten, the curiosity, and then staying with it. But the future workers here are the kids who get excited about science, technology, engineering, math when they're very young, and then stick with it.
Our mission at Idaho National Laboratory is to discover, demonstrate, and secure innovative nuclear energy solutions, other clean energy options, and protect critical infrastructure. The lab nuclear experts are developing, testing, and demonstrating new fuels and materials for both the current fleet and a new generation of advanced nuclear reactors. This involves many STEM careers like engineering, physics, chemistry, computer science, and many other technical fields.
As a nuclear engineer here at Idaho National Laboratory, I get to work on a lot of complex and very interesting systems. And a lot of those have a very positive impact on our society, which is why I love what I do, is I have a real and positive impact on society. Primarily working on developing new capabilities to examine nuclear fuels after they come out of a reactor. But the best engineers aren't the ones who are great at the bookwork only. The best engineers are the people who have a creative mind. It's the creative engineers that really succeed. And one of the reasons I love engineering and what I do is I get to work on some really complex things where I can use my creativity. And that's really appealing to me.
INL is a national leader in the development of hybrid energy systems to integrate nuclear and renewable energy generation. How engineers work to ensure systems like wind, solar, and advanced battery storage technologies can work reliably with the grid.
Might make society better every day because we work with electricity, we try to get electricity efficient, reliable, sustainable for everybody. Businesses, for houses, social buildings, for shopping malls, schools, everybody. So our research impacts everybody's lives every day, 24/7. That's what we like to do. Cool to be a scientist.
INL's multi-mission research also includes testing of advanced vehicle capabilities, solving bioenergy challenges, and improving manufacturing efficiency. INL's national and homeland security programs use our expansive critical infrastructure test range in development of innovations to protect the nation's critical infrastructure, like the electric grid and water systems. IHS researchers also test advanced wireless technologies, cybersecurity innovations, and cyber response efforts. Also develop and produce armor for Abrams tanks.
I'm a cybersecurity researcher. I work on many different projects helping secure our national infrastructure. I learn tools and techniques used by hackers and research ways to help protect against them. Cybersecurity is interesting because it's a fairly new field and it's always changing. I've liked solving math puzzles, which is why I like programming and looking for vulnerabilities in software. My advice for students interested in computer science is to take as many programming, math, physical science classes as you can, because if you like those classes, then you'll like computer science. If you like what you're doing and you're interested in it, then you'll be good at it.
But careers at the lab are not limited to scientists and engineers. Many opportunities also exist for a multitude of technicians, information management specialists, business professionals, and many other support services. Not only are STEM careers personally rewarding, they're financially rewarding. Starting salaries range from $40,000 to $80,000 a year.
Investment in STEM is really investment in our future. It's about business. Over the last 2 years, we've hired 500 people each year, and most of those hires required at least a certification or a degree in STEM. So by investing time and materials and resources and getting into the schools, getting in front of the counselors, getting in front of the teachers, and really showing them what the career opportunities are at Idaho National Laboratory, we're really hoping students like you will be interested in pursuing really exciting jobs that we need to fill not only now, but well into our future.
Scientists and engineers at INL are world-renowned problem solvers, and we need more and better prepared students to solve the challenges of the future. What are you passionate about? Discover what intrigues you. The journey to your future begins with a first step. Consider becoming a scientist, engineer, technician, or inventor of tomorrow. Visit inl.gov/partnership to learn more.
Thank you, and you're unmuted now. I'm gonna get the slides back up here.
So anybody would be interested, again, that video is on our webpage at inl.gov. And if you want books that go with it or the game that goes with it, don't hesitate to reach out to me, and we'll be glad to send you some of those for your use. Our mission here is really focused on empowering teachers, motivating students, and collaborating with families and communities, really to develop that STEM literacy. We have some core programs, and again, these really are reaching out into our rural communities. We do teacher and student outreach. We have high school experiences where we bring the students from rural communities. We actually partner with a program called TRIO, many universities have, and they bring their STEM track students to the lab for experiences, days with our scientists and engineers and technicians. We have teachers that come from Little or Idaho that come in and work with our teachers in the summer and then take the learning back out to their classrooms and work with their students and engage them in some of the research and projects. So that's really fun for those students. Teacher professional development is something that we love to engage in, and we'll talk some more about that. We have our grants that I mentioned, and a new program that we're starting is our Teams Amazing, which we're trying to encourage all of our workers each year to go out into classrooms, whether their own students, children's classrooms, grandchildren, neighbors, or just in a community that they like, and work with students. So we're going to be participating in Hour of Code, and we have many of our computer scientists employees going out to the rural schools to engage in Hour of Code with the students here in December. So next slide. our grants, we really try to grant heavily to the rural schools. Again, like I said, the whole community gets involved, and they usually bring in partners. So we did a farm and a greenhouse up in Idaho, which is about 2 hours from here. And those students turn that into a profit. They come into Idaho Falls in the summer and bring all their vegetables from the greenhouse and fish into the market and sell it. And then they also have partnered with the Fish and Game to do fish studies and release sturgeon into the Lake River. So quite exciting. That's just one example of the many projects that our rural communities we engage in with our rural communities with. Next.
Now, I have to ask you, what is the jumping for joy here? What's the story there?
So that teacher was so excited. She received $10,000 grants. That's oftentimes what we'll give out into our rural communities. And they didn't have any robotics classes or competitions, clubs, I should say. So that teacher took it upon herself to develop a robotics course at middle school and then started a robotics club in a rural community.
You ask. There we go.
So them outreach, and this is what I really love, is getting our scientists, engineers, or my team out to these or into the lab. We've partnered with something called the 21st Century Learning Grants here in the state. That's a federally funded grant. I think most states have those. So we really encourage, we help write the grants with rural communities, and then we help them pick themes, STEM themes, and then we send scientists or my team out to do fun activities with the kids, and then we'll bus them into the laboratory as well. So on that bottom right-hand corner, you'll see some girls there dressed in or some kids dressed in hazmat suits. Those are some of the kids we brought in. Down by the Twin Falls area, which is about 3 hours away, and we brought them up for a tour of the lab. So those are just some of the workshops we did out in the schools. Next. Professional development. We will still continue to support our I7 program. In Eastern Idaho, we do believe that our rural teachers need to really engage. We started a new program, though, called Growing Together Business Industry Educator Exchange, and this is a Department of Labor model, I think found in other states as well. So teachers come in, we only invited rural community teachers. They come in, we pay for them to stay the night or two, treat them like kings and queens, give them all kinds of technology and resources, and then take them out, do some workshops, and take them out into the industries who sponsor the workshops. And these are actually aligned, the workshops are aligned to their state standards, and they see STEM in action. And this has been a very positive teacher professional development for our rural teachers. And what's fun is those teachers continue to connect with those industries throughout the year. So they'll get grants, they'll bring students in for tours, and they'll get speakers to come out to the classroom. Next. The competitions, again, job shadows. We like to bring the students in from those rural communities, have them, in Idaho, all seniors have to do a senior project, so if we can find some that align with the mission of our lab, we like to have the students come in and work along the side of the scientists, and we help them fine-tune their project. We have a special internships for rural communities, students in rural communities and students of diversity. And we hire 6 of those interns every summer to come in. And you can see some of them won, the poster down there, they won. So, and then we participate in the National Science Bowl competition, and we have a lot of rural schools that are really excited about that. And it's a big deal to get to take a day to come into Idaho Falls.
Have you hired somebody who started as a summer intern?
Yes, we hire several of those. We have some great case studies, and you know what's great? All those people come back and do outreach now for us because they know the value. So we hire several. And that's what made us really think that, if we hire from our own backyard, we're most likely to get people who want to stay. I
have a question that just came in here. Michael asks, could you share more information about in Idaho, all students have to complete a senior project? Is that a state requirement or a district school? Where could he learn a little bit more about it?
Thank you for the question. That's a state requirement, and the project can be in any field, and I tell you how many hours. I think you have to put in like 40 hours of work on this, but we take, for the lab, we'll take students in for a week and really help them get the information, work with the research, and then develop a concept. So we get them started. A good example of that is we had a student work with us, and she wanted to do outreach, and I needed a portable cave, a simulation device to take out to these rural schools so I could give tours of the laboratory virtually through VR. So she had a cave for me, and it was just a hit. So she came in and worked with our IT folks and our visualization folks, made this cave, and it goes all over the state. So, funny.
Michael, I'm going to drop a link in chat. I just Googled really quickly, and it's very clear there. The bullet points for Idaho's graduation say, take 3 years of this, take 3 years of that, complete a senior project. I mean, they're not high.
Tours are one of our favorite things. Like I said, the bottom corner is where the girls and the gentlemen are in purple. Those students are in the visualization cave, similar to what the shadow student made for me. We bring students in. There's a bus simulator into some of the nuclear facilities, and then we have a museum out on the desert about 60 miles away that we'll bus students out to as well. So it's always fun to either take these field trips out virtually or have the students come into the laboratory.
This question comes up every time, and so I've got one in from Jamie who asks, how are the rural schools and teachers sustaining learning and the clubs and the resources and the materials when that funding runs out?
So, you know, teachers, that is really, being a teacher, it was just part of their passion, and they just find ways to do that. You know, they'll contact us, and we're really pleased to always provide materials as we can. They find time. They're not paid extra to run those clubs. We do encourage schools to apply for the 21st Century grants, and we have some state foundations that help with after-school programs as well, and in-school programs or out-of-school programs. So we will help match those grants oftentimes as well. But really, teachers are dedicated. I just don't know what else to say. I don't know how many clubs I ran as a teacher and a principal, and you know, just found those supplies, asked locally, and made it work.
Now I ask, and I know we're a little bit over time, but I have to understand, what is a visualization cave?
So it's a 3D modeling simulation that you put your 3D glasses in. It visualizes an image so that you feel like you're inside an image. So, for example, we just developed, we're opening a facility called TREAT. It's a nuclear facility, and we just developed a field trip, a virtual field trip on it, and so you can actually walk through the nuclear reactor. We have some caves that we're exploring here, and you can go down in the cave, actually feel like you're touching the wall and that. So it's quite popular, let me tell you.
It's a lot of fun. I did it last year.
School districts are actually talking to us about looking at their HVAC systems and being able to crawl through those and what's in them using three-dimensional cameras. So all kinds of uses. We actually have some of the schools locally developing the data to put together these field trips, and that's what's really exciting. And they're coming up with some of the ideas about this, so it's fun. So that's helpful. If you'd like to know more, feel free to reach out to me, and we talk about the specific programs we do. One of the things I didn't mention that is a top hit item in our rural communities is a family STEM night, and our Idaho STEM Center supplies grants for that. So so our communities can apply for those grants, and then we go in and bring scientists and helpers and kits and help them put on these STEM nights, and again, bring our careers books, and parents and teachers and students have a blast. And they walk away thinking, gosh, I can do this, or my kid can do this, or maybe me as an adult even want to go back to school. And I could do this in my community. So anyway, thank you.
Okay. So I think then I will turn it over to our colleagues here from Tennessee.
Rob, can you hear me? Great. So Evan and I are really excited to be here joining on the webinar today. Our program that we're going to discuss with you isn't quite as robust as what we just heard from Idaho, but I think you'll hear some common themes and common strategies incorporated. So for those of you on the phone that don't know, the Tennessee STEM Innovation Network is a public-private partnership. We work really closely with the Department of Education, and we work really closely with schools through our regional STEM hubs, and we have 7 of those across the state. But we're always looking for opportunities to directly impact rural educators and students. And we're really excited that we just launched our Rural STEM Collaborative about a month ago. It's a new program for us, and we're excited to share the progress on that so far and what the outcomes we're hoping to see at the end of this initial implementation year. So it is a competitive application that teachers apply for. K-12 educators across the state that are in rural areas can apply. You can go next, Rob. So I'll talk about some of the information that we use to inform our planning and design of this program. So here we had an external evaluation conducted that really captured a snapshot of the current state of STEM and the future needs of STEM in rural Tennessee. So rural administrators and teachers were asked to complete the survey, and one of the key recommendations that we found was that we had to develop a program that identified gaps in STEM resources in different regions of our state. And more specifically, we were looking at providing quality professional learning because rural educators, they're not getting it, and providing partner support, like how they get in contact with these partners and develop these relationships, because that's what they believe will have the greatest impact on STEM in their classrooms. And providing networking and collaboration opportunities, because it's so often that they just don't have that built in to their professional learning. Use those things to really be intentional and strategic as we plan this program. Next slide. So also talk about outcomes for students, because as former teachers, that is very, very important to us. Yes, it is about the teachers, but how does it impact the kids? So I grew up in a really remote area of Arkansas, up and around, and I never had any STEM exposure. I had one opportunity to be immersed in STEM, and it was a summer camp my incoming 8th grade year. I had a bus 40 minutes to get there, and the most fun experience I had. We built rockets, we launched them, and I just thought it was the coolest thing. And thinking back now, if I had that immersion in my classroom experience, I really think learning would have been so much different for me. And that's a reality for a lot of our students. They don't get that exposure, and we're really hoping to change that. Some of the things that we're hoping to see are that students are immersed in authentic tasks, rooted in their local context, like water testing and reporting. You can click forward, Rob. Or education or industry, touring those facilities, or having teachers incorporate, project-based or problem-based learning or STEM challenges in the classroom. And I think one more time, introducing them to members of the community that are in these STEM professions that are right there, like Anne's already said, in their own backyards that they may not be aware of. When I look back now and think about where I grew up in, there were many STEM jobs. I just had no idea they were there. So if we can do that for students, I think that's what's going to make lasting change for rural communities in Tennessee. For the students, but for the teachers, we're hoping to share those promising practices and then help them really target challenges they're facing and come up with solutions. The next slide. So we have one collaborative of 43 educators in 24 counties across the state, but we've broken those down into 3 regional cohorts, West, Middle, and East Tennessee. And the network is really designed to leverage educator expertise, actions locally, and build teacher capacity to integrate STEM into their instruction. Our collaborative meets 3 times in person and twice virtually. And the first convening we just had October 1st, and we brought all of them together to Nashville so that everyone could meet one another and see that, you know, they're not alone. They're really trying to enhance rural education, you know, across the state. So it's all, just recently we brought them together to identify issues that they're facing, so they're openly sharing with one another. And right now they're working on creating action plans to address those challenges that they're facing, and they're collaborating and working together on that. In the spring, they're going to implement their solutions and monitor their progress, see if they are designing is working. Next slide. The picture up there is of our first convening, all educators together, and you'll see we have every core subject areas represented, and we have pretty even dispersal between elementary, middle, and high school teachers, a little bit on the high school side. But we have 3 informal educators. We actually have a 21st century learning director for Haywood County, one in each regional cohort. So that's been really helpful because they've been a great asset for us when we're trying to identify different STEM resources that these teachers can utilize. It just gives us a different perspective. Next. Strategies that we are incorporating into our collaborative are, first of all, based thinking and reframing challenges as opportunities. That's a big theme. But every cohort member is in their area. But it's more than just putting down on paper. We're really working with them to develop strategies to build those partnerships, to reach out to them and identify exactly what it is that they're hoping to get from the partnership and how to get that started. We also have STEM industry tours for each region planned so that the teachers can get in there and see exactly what kind of skills they need to be preparing their kids for after graduation. We are also incorporating project or problem-based learning and place-based education training so that they can deepen their knowledge of STEM and develop STEM activities that incorporate place around them for immediate use in the classroom. Because the real magic is going to happen is changing these kids' experiences. And are further dividing our regional cohorts into smaller work-alike groups, and Evan's going to talk about that in just a second. But we wanted to provide them with personal learning, but it was hard to do that if we told them they all had to work on the same solution or the same challenge. So we wanted them to be the drivers and still a collaborative piece. So the work-alike groups help out quite a bit with that. And all 4 of these pieces together hit those needs that were surfaced by our external evaluation. So we really big and intentional with that. You can go.
So as Brandi mentioned, our 43 regional educators are broken into their 3 regions, and then within those regional cohorts, they're going to work in these work-alike groups around a problem that they're seeing in their own STEM landscape. We broke those focus areas into 3 main areas that the teachers could focus on: community partnerships, STEM integration, and family engagement. Brandi mentioned we really wanted this to be a teacher-driven professional development opportunity with lots of opportunities for choice in the area the teacher wanted to work on. as well as giving them the opportunity to collaborate directly with other teachers on a specific area. And we found that collaboration piece has been really amazing, seeing the suggestion that one teacher from a different school district might have about a particular work-based learning partner, or a way that a middle school has integrated a project-based learning that could then be implemented at the high school level. So just lots of opportunities for teachers to collaborate across districts that they might not normally get. So our three focus areas are in community partnerships, integration, and family engagement. In community partnerships, we're focusing on work-based learning and STEM spotlights or speakers. Lots of opportunities for students, even as low as the elementary level, to get develop awareness of STEM careers through being in or engaging in unique field trips. And then at the high levels, to be able to provide them with opportunity to engage in work-based learning and internships and job shadowing. You'll notice a lot of overlap between our focus areas and the focus areas that Anne was talking about earlier. I also wanted to focus on in the classroom curriculum and equip teachers with the skills to develop really challenging and community-oriented project-based learning units. We have several different teachers working on some really innovative project-based learning opportunities for their students. If they weren't quite ready for an entire project-based learning opportunity, they could also work on STEM challenges or things that were more on a day-to-day level, but always focused on that place-based ed and bringing in community partners and opportunities to engage with the community around them. And then finally, as Anne mentioned, that family engagement piece is so important in not only exposing students to STEM, but in keeping them on those paths. We really want to equip teachers with skills to develop really engaging family STEM nights, opportunities to work with their family to engage in STEM opportunities in their community. Next slide. As Brandi mentioned, this is the first year of our cohort, and we have some pretty lofty goals for our 40 educators. We want them to be the drivers of their own professional development and design strategies that are specific to the STEM challenges that they're seeing in their own communities. And within Tennessee, we noticed that there are some really distinct regional differences in the challenges that these teachers face, and it's great that they have those other teachers from their region to rely on and receive feedback from and collaborate with around these challenges. As Brandi mentioned, our most important outcome is that this is student-focused and that we see the impact directly on students. As part of the project, the teachers need to develop a specific proposal about what they're going to do during the course of this program, and all of that is focused on student outcomes and being really student-centered. And finally, we really want to build these teachers up to be the experts of their own communities. It is amazing when you ask a teacher what is around, and they are so knowledgeable about what in their own backyard, but sometimes that information isn't shared as well as it could be. So we want to provide them with the tools to really be their own experts and then drive change in their own communities as well.
And then we also are excited because we believe we're going to end up with quite a few replicable frameworks that we can share with other educators across the state. So success stories, maybe stories of things that didn't go quite so well, lessons learned, but all that's going to be really valuable for other rural educators across the state.
Absolutely. Next slide, please, Rob. So after our first all-group convening that we had October 1st and 2nd, we asked for some feedback. As we mentioned, we really want this to be teacher-driven. As it's the first time that we've done this program, we want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of the teachers. And these were a few of the key takeaways that teachers had from this first-person convening before they break out into their regional cohorts. The that really stood out to Brandi and I is the one in the middle that says STEM is not just for high flyers, STEM is for all. A huge focus area for TIN as an organization. So it was great to see that teachers identified that as an outcome from that first convening. Brandi mentioned we have teachers in a wide variety of different subject areas and expertise, but they were all focused on bringing STEM in at their level for students. And then I think the one on the bottom left, having a diverse group of educators from different backgrounds was particularly helpful because they each came with unique ideas and perspectives that I had not thought about before. We didn't want to create a professional development opportunity where we were just standing in front of the teachers and telling them this is what you could do, or these are strategies that we've seen work. We want us to be teacher-driven and rebuild on the expertise that we have in the room from our 43 educators. So that's just kind of a snapshot of where we are so far with this Rural STEM Collaborative. I think Brandi and I are both incredibly excited about seeing projects that these teachers come up with and the direct impact it's going to have on students.
And we're really looking forward to learning and growing throughout the implementation. I mean, we've already thought of things that could be done better and ways to improve for next year, and we've made some real-time adjustments, you know, in the course of our convening and working with the teachers. So we're really looking forward to improving the program and just seeing ideas that they come up with and how we can greatly impact rural STEM in our state. So I'm going to share it with you.
Bob, I think you had a couple of questions popped up.
I just saw this one. Jamie, do you have resources or strategies for developing school industry partnerships that we can share?
We're using a community partnership toolkit that the West Tennessee STEM Hub put together, so we definitely share that with their attending. I want to say it's on the West Tennessee STEM Hub's website, but I don't exactly right off of my head.
We can send that out in the follow-up. Let's see. One person asking about the PowerPoint, and we can handle that later. I'm a little bit curious. What's an example of a change, Brandi and Evan, that you've made based on your initial plans to today?
That's a great question. One thing that I definitely want to make sure we do next year is include local chambers of commerce, have them come and speak with our teachers and industry partners as well as we move into that asset mapping conversation. For next year, I feel like that might have been a missing piece. Our educators, like I said, definitely knew resources that they could tap into, but I just feel like that would make for a much richer conversation and maybe surface some things that we hadn't or they hadn't thought about.
That we're excited about for next year is to provide some more targeted training up front. Our teachers came in at very different levels of STEM implementation in their own schools, which was great. It was great to see the diversity in thought and experience. I want to make sure next year that we provide them with the tools up front so that they are speaking a common language when they move into their regional cohorts.
We talked a little bit about the funding model here, and I just happen to know, since Brandi and Evan on the team, that the initial pilot is funded basically through the regular funding for TSIN, right? Or do you guys have a special grant?
It's through regular funding from the Department of Ed.
And just a little curious, and maybe there's some brainpower already in the chat here who can tell us about some of the funding sources that are particularly interesting for rural educators. I'll be honest, I do not. We would have long ago profiled some of those on the STEMX blog. In fact, we just published an interesting interview recently with a company called Rural Sourcing about helping companies find IT professionals who are living in rural communities as a perspective on that. But I think we're certainly trying to figure out where to find some of the money to get at that sustainability question that came up earlier.
So he addresses the fact that he wants to open maybe a fourth center in the United States. I can't really remember the entire details of that, but and if but I feel like if the talent is there, somebody's going to come and find those who have the capacity to do that work.
What's the best way to sort of follow along your progression as this initiative continues forward?
preparation. So we, on all of our meetings, we'll be posting on Twitter, and then we also will be writing some blogs, as well as having some teachers participate in some guest blogging about their experience in the cohort. So definitely following along on the TSIN website and the TSIN Twitter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know those are going to probably be the two main where we share that information.
I'll pose the same question to you, though. I'm like, there's just so much there that I don't know how I would ever keep on track of all. Hard.
And mute.
Oh, thanks. Social media, we do with that, Twitter as well. So when we go out to events, we have teams that support us and follow us that way.
For both of you guys, you mentioned that you guys talked about Family STEM Night. How do you, both Tennessee and Idaho, like get that information out to the parents, and how much time do you give them? Because I imagine folks are out, and their kids probably have as many sports as anybody's kids do.
Here in Idaho, we have a contact us page on a button on our and a form to fill out if they are interested in a Family STEM Night or any kind of presentation. So they'll reach into us, and then we go through those monthly or weekly as we have time, and then reach out to those schools and see what the needs are. We have found that if we're going to do it, the principal and the PTO usually takes charge and gets that information out. And then a lot of our little towns still have newspapers, which is amazing. And when you post the ad newspaper, boy, they all know what's going on. So we found that to be ads to be really helpful too. That's necessarily so true in the big city.
Yeah, that's very true. I live in a rural county just north of Nashville. I look forward to the Saturday local newspaper so I can read what's happening. But as a part of our teachers, when they submit their proposals, they have to have a communications plan because they really are the driving factors behind these initiatives. But a lot of them have indicated that they're going to use their PTO and their principal and their contact list to get the information out to families and out into the community.
I should offer Carol Moore in the chat mentions that for starting their sort of STEM night, she started off by hosting it, bringing tables to fairs and festivals. It's certainly something I've heard about before. I know at least one of our STEM schools in Ohio recruited a ton of their students at the county fair. Not something you see all the time, I think, but it can be a great fit for the right kind of community. Okay, I will not belabor silence while we're close to hitting up our full hour here. So with that, I think, Regina, I'll turn it over to you for a quick close. Oh,
we got one more from Jamie.
Yes, Jamie asks us, how do you guide the industry in creating meaningful experiences for youth at school and STEM nights, and the parenthetical about avoiding just a booth with painful about a job. And I will say that, here at Battelle, a great way to get the ire of certain principals who are involved in the leadership of our organization is to say, like, well, of course we have industry partnerships. We give 45 minutes to a professional to come and talk to our kids without structure. That's a great way to get a strong look. But how do you guys handle that meaningful experience question?
So we do training, so we don't send out. Being the teacher and the administrator, I know that they need some tips on how to work with kids. They're not invited to go out and just lecture to students. They have to take something hands-on and something they can leave behind. And even if we just go to a career fair, they have to take a demonstration of what they've done and what their research is and somehow figure out how to engage students in that conversation. So we've done this in many rural schools, in many rural communities. We partnered with our Idaho State University College of Technology, and their professors went out with us. Each professor partnered with a history, and together we put on great workshops and great booth, hands-on things. It's really fun.
And I was training for sure.
Like in my former middle school, we did the same thing. When the industry partners wanted to come in and talk to the students, we just made sure that they went a little 101, like how to interact with students and bring something engaging and hands-on with them.
I also think where project and problem-based learning is so powerful is having, those industry partners bring a challenge that they're facing to students directly. Really, it doesn't require a ton of in-the-classroom experience for that industry partner, but it creates connections and allows students to be working on real problems.
Jamie, thanks everybody. I really enjoyed this presentation. I'm really looking forward to seeing Anne, how amazing work and tying in the work in Southeast Idaho. And I know you guys take a look at the entire state, but thinking about the unique challenges of your state, and you guys hit your restart button to think about your spread and reaching folks at a local level. So I really look forward to it. Brandi and Evan, we tapped you guys a lot, I feel like in the last 6 months, but you're also doing some amazing work, and so I really appreciate you guys taking more time out of your busy schedules to talk to us about this work. I'm really looking forward to see what your cohort brings together. Maybe you can report some of this out at the TSIN conference. Look hearing about that, and then Anne, of course, I think you've already been invited to that. If you haven't, Rob and I are going to go over that invitation list next week to make sure everybody gets an invitation to it. So I hope everybody had as much enjoyment out of this conversation as I did. We will not meet next month, but in the month of January, we have invited educators from Wolf Trap Performing Arts here in the D.C. area to talk about how they actually coach performing artists to bring them into preschools and first grade. They also do that not just in this area, but around the country. They look for other partners to do that. So enjoy the month of December off from the webinars, and we look forward to seeing all of you guys and more in January. Thank you all so much. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.